We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Welcome back to Liberty Nation. We're staying with Dave Patterson, Liberty Nation's national security correspondent. Earlier in the show, we were talking about the power dynamics in the wake of President Raisi's demise in Iran. But I want to talk more generally about the region, what's going on, specifically with regards to Israel, with Hamas. And let's kick this off, Dave, with talking about the International Criminal Court and the recent talk of hauling President Netanyahu up for a warrant. What's going on there?
Well, I think that the prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, a guy named Karim Khan, has of late been somewhat antagonistic toward Israel, and particularly after the Israel's retribution, shall we say, on Hamas. Now, what he's trying to do here by asking the criminal court to swear out warrants, and it's not just for Netanyahu, it's for Sinwar as well. And so he's trying to draw some equivalence between Israel, who suffered an attack of just horrific dimensions, with the recognized terrorist organization Hamas, and he's trying to draw some equivalence, and it's just not there. Besides the fact that Western nations don't particularly think much of the ICC, but they're an irritant, quite frankly, and they take up time and space. And in this case, with his request for two warrants, one for Benjamin Netanyahu and the other for Sinwar, again, the international community, principally within the UN, have been trying very hard to draw this equivalence in the humanitarian world between Israel and the terrorist organization Hamas.
It's fascinating because an ICC warrant, it doesn't actually have any real power. There's no real teeth behind it. But as you say, by drawing this equivalence, it's a huge propaganda victory. And by saying that these two are the same situation, what they're ending up with, what they're trying to paint is that both people are criminals, and what Israel's doing is just as bad, if not worse, than what Hamas is doing, because they were using, up until recently, the Hamas supplied numbers of casualties, which is insane to believe the Hamas supplied numbers of casualties in the first place. But is it a successful propaganda operation?
It depends on what audience you're looking at. For the developing world, for those who like to strut around in the United Nations, they take it in. I mean, they're the ones that believe the propaganda. The first and second world, probably not. I mean, they see it for what it is, and you have and it's interesting because when Karim Khan became the prosecutor for the ICC, Israel thought they were going to have a friend there because he was considered to be, a justice ideologue. He has proven not to be that. He's proven to be anti-Israel in most of what he does and says. And I think that his request for the warrants is really kind of evocative. Let me just read you, if I can, two sentences, and it says that these applications were committed in the context of an international armed conflict between Israel and Palestine, and a non-international armed conflict between Israel and Hamas running in parallel. What he's done here is he has given Palestine a position, a sovereignty, which it doesn't have at all. It's an authority. It's an organization. It's not a country. And so he draws again this equivalence, and it's just not there. It's not true.
Yeah, as you often point out, Dave, you ask people, tell me the president of Palestine.
Yes,
And but as you say, this is going to be good fodder for maybe not a lot of the, let's call them developed nations, I guess, but it's certainly something that's going to be a rallying cry across universities
of course.
in the West, US universities, UK universities, and it worries me quite a lot that essentially that's the next generation of leadership, and does it seem to you there's almost like a tipping point? So when the current generation steps back and the new generation comes in, what kind of situation will Israel be in then when when you have people who are assuming positions of power, global positions of power, but they support Hamas essentially is what they're doing. I mean, the distinction between uh, supporting the Palestine Authority and supporting Hamas is a distinction without a difference. Um, so, what situation will Israel be in once these new leaders come into their own?
Well, Israel's going to be in a unenviable position because now you have the uneducated rallying, the unbridled emotions of people. And you're right, but it's not dissimilar to what we experienced back in the 1960s with the SDS, Students for Democratic Society, and so forth. And particularly, I'm thinking 1968 with the riots in Chicago. But on the other hand, I'm also reminded, I don't know if you ever saw Little Abner, the cartoon, Al Cap's Little Abner, but he had a group of people that he called swine, students wildly indignant over nearly everything. And that's kind of where we find ourselves with these people who are rioting and protesting, and because when you ask them what salient questions, what does this mean or what does that mean? They're totally clueless.
Mm.
They have no idea. They're just kind of caught up in this revelry of the protest, and let's do it to the man. And eventually we will know, of course, when we've got true diversity in this country, because they'll no longer say, do it to the man. It'll be do it to the woman, or a reasonable facsimile. Um, and, but this is where we are. It's just truly madness, and it's what we're experiencing. There's also a concept, I think, that Americans generally, particularly conservatives, are going to have to come to grips with. And I refer to it as minding the store. You cannot allow even the most apparently benign threats to democracy, to the kinds of values that the founding fathers brought forth in this country. You cannot allow even the first step toward tearing those values down to exist. You can debate it, but you better be smart about what the founding fathers really meant. You can't be uneducated about this, because if you are, then you're no better than the people you're debating, who are basically clueless.
So your tacit suggestion is a copy of John Locke's Two Treatises of Government for every student before they get admission to college.
Yes.
Dave Patterson, thanks ever so much for being with us.
Happy to be with you, Mark, always.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.